Good evening. We're back with more DC Dual Force, and this evening will be an updated tier list for the legendary rarity cards. In game, I believe they're called Super Rare Rarity. They are the purple rarity cards. So we'll take a look at my original tier list, which was done some time ago, and we will update the list based on my experiences and based on the most recent patch. Today is September 14th, 2023, and the most recent balance patch was a week ago, which brought the ranked mode along with some balance changes. There was also a patch a day or two ago which brought a new comic but didn't bring any new balance changes. So let's dive in and we'll take a look. 10th metal, silver rarity or a silver resource card which generates a gold resource. I had that in the C tier. I rarely see this card used, never used it myself, wouldn't consider it a high priority craft. So as in the ultimate rarity card tier list, the order of the cards is going to be based on their crafting priority. The S tier cards are going to be cards that you may want to craft before you craft some of the lower tier ultimate cards. And then as you move down the list, we're going to move into super rare legendary rarity cards, where you probably will want to craft some blue rarity cards, just some ordinary rares, before you craft these cards because they're kind of weak. 10th metal's in that category. There are plenty of rares that I think are stronger than this card and would be a higher priority craft than this card. I'm going to move it down into the D tier. I really don't think it's good. I've seen it played. I've never really seen it be that effective. Not a big fan of that one. Antarn Arcane. +1/+1 for each friendly recruit KO'd this game. I originally had him in the S tier. I think that is accurate. The lower end of the S tier, I've seen him be incredible. I've rarely seen him be bad. I think this is a good card. He's especially good with Batgirl. I'd put him as a relatively high priority craft. Now, would I craft him before most rares? There's some rares that are going to be so high priority that they'll top Anton, so I'm going to move him down into the A tier. A tier is for cards where the best rares are going to be higher priority than the A tier cards. And I think that'll be the case for Anton, though he is very good. Batwing has been nerfed since we last talked about him. He used to be a 3/4. He is now a 3/3. And as such, we move him down the priority list. I'd put him in fairly low A tier, maybe even high B tier in terms of his crafting order. He's good in like the Bat Gadget focus deck where you're playing the Batman Ultimate, you're playing Thomas Wayne's version of Batman, and potentially Batmobile. He's good in that deck, but there are other cards in that deck you'll want to acquire first, in particular the Batman Ultimate. And Batwing now from the S tier down to like low A, high B maybe. We'll see. He may get moved up a little bit as the video goes on. He's not going to be moved down. Candle of Neuron I had in the D tier. I think that's accurate. I think I've seen this card played only once. Never felt tempted to play it myself. I wouldn't put it high on the priority list as far as crafting goes. Disorganized Crime. Never actually seen anybody play this card. I don't think it's good. Definitely wouldn't recommend crafting that one before almost any rare. Doomsday. Doomsday was recently buffed. Now, in addition to returning him to your hand, he also gets +2 attack and he gets Hunter. So he's a beast now. I had him in the S tier originally. I still think he's in the S tier. I would consider him the highest priority purple card for Anarchy. And where he's going to end up relative to other purple cards, we'll see. There are rares that are going to be higher priority than him. But I do think he's very good. He doesn't get included in every deck. I'd probably put him at the top of A tier, even with his buff. I think he's underrated for sure. But in terms of a high priority craft, no, I don't think I can go that far. If only because Anarchy just really isn't that good of a state right now. Felicity Smoke, she comes with the Green Arrow mini set, and I would consider her an S tier card in that she will always be included in a Green Arrow deck. Crafting priority is irrelevant though, because she comes in that mini set. Giovanni Zatara can be very good, can be very mediocre. The best fit for him is in the Zatanna deck. I've seen some pretty sick Zatara plays where you play like Zatara and then Smoke and Mirrors to clone him and then deal 8 damage to both heroes. I've only seen it once though. I think I was wrong about my placement of him. I would move him down to the B tier and say that as far as priority goes, maybe low A, but I think B. He only really fits in one deck, and that deck is not one that's featured in the meta much right now. I rarely ever see Zatanna decks. I can't actually remember the last time that I saw one, and I tried Zatanna a little bit, didn't work for me, and the reason for that is that John Constantine got nerfed in the last patch, and so Zatanna has completely fallen out of the meta. And since Zatara is only good in the Zatanna deck, I would not put a high priority on crafting him at all. Harley Quinn, she's okay. It's very rare that you'll get to use her adrenaline ability, her flurry. So it's really just her stats, and her stats are okay, but nothing special. So I think B tier is accurate for her. She belongs right where she is, I would say. And we'll leave her there. Hephaestus, I saw it like a Hephaestus Voltron play once where he spawned divine weapons and made himself into a beast. That was pretty cool. Only seen that once. So I would put him as a lower priority craft than Harley Quinn. I'd move him down into the C tier. It's possible that he's really just underrated, but Might is really not in a good place right now because the Blue Beetle mini set, when it came out, featured no Might cards at all. So Tactics got some help because Blue Beetle mini set has some very good Tactics cards. Tyranny got a little help with Ladama, but Might got nothing. And so Might's kind of in a rough place right now, and Hephaestus is kind of far down the list as far as Might cards go. Wouldn't put a high priority on him. Imbued with Lightning. After a friendly character attacks this turn, create 2 lightning bolts. This has since been modified. It is now free. So it's going to get moved up from the D tier to like the C tier. I have seen it featured in some Shazam decks. Wouldn't put a high priority on it. Don't think it's an essential card at all. Not every Shazam deck will feature it. It will be a card where, like, if you have it, yeah, maybe I'll throw it in the deck and try it out, but otherwise, not an important one to get. John Stewart. This card I had in the B tier. This card I think is really good. He has since found a home not only in the Green Lantern decks, but also in Rush decks because of his direct damage. I would put a high priority on crafting this card. He's going up from the B tier to the S tier. I think he is very, very good. He's one of the purple rarity cards that I still don't have. There are not many of them left, but he's one of them. And I hope I will get him soon. Kyle Rayner. Similar situation. I'd move him up from B tier to probably A tier, maybe right behind Wizard Shazam. I think he's really important in a Green Lantern deck. Outside of a Green Lantern deck, not as much. He can be a little unwieldy to play sometimes. Hard to make him work perfectly because you want him in the back row. And you want the construct guarding him, and you'd like him to be buffed so that an opponent can't easily take him out with a removal spell. Not easy to make all of that happen, but if you do, he can win you a game. So I think he belongs higher than the B tier, but not as high as S tier. John Stewart is better. Lex Luthor I had in the B tier. I think that is incorrect. I think he is one of the highest priority purple cards to craft in the game, so I'd have him as high S tier. Probably second right now behind Robin. That's how good that I think Lex Luthor is. He always draws at least one card. He can get as big as like 10 attack. He's really, really good. He's versatile. Defends well. I like this card. I always include it in my Tyranny decks, and I'd consider it a high priority craft. because Tyranny is in such a good spot right now. Lobo, very middling tier. I had him in A tier. I think he belongs more B tier. Don't think it's important to get him at all. I've never actually seen him frag his target. So his ability, secretly put a bounty on a random enemy character after he frags that card, draw 2 cards, and they become free. Never seen that happen. Been playing the game for a couple of months, never seen it happen successfully. Seen plenty of people play Lobo as just a 6/6, but I've never actually seen him take out his target. So he's getting moved down the priority list to like low B tier. I might even put him behind Harley Quinn. I don't think he's important to get at all. Lucius Fox. Lucius Fox I had in the S tier. I think that's accurate. He's very good. I don't know that you need to prioritize crafting 2 of him. I mean, maybe. I think it is good to have 2 of them in your deck if you... The second one doesn't do much. The second one is just a silver card that costs 1 too. So when you're including 2 of him, you're really only hoping to draw 1. But you do want to increase the likelihood that you'll get him, so you probably live with the times that you end up drawing him twice in a game so that you draw him in more games overall. But regardless, he's very, very strong. He kind of enables an entire deck, the Batman Gadgets deck. So he gets a high priority as far as crafting goes. Malcolm Merlin. I've seen one good Malcolm Merlin play, but only one. And I don't think he is therefore a very important craft. He's got ambush, his actions deal lethal damage, your actions deal lethal damage. Okay. And I saw somebody make really good use of that once with Malcolm Merlin and a lightning bolt chain to clear the board. But only once. So I'd consider him a pretty low priority craft. I'm going to leave him where he is for now. Martian Manhunter, very, very good in Batgirl. Not that good outside of Batgirl. So I would place him in the A tier. I do like playing Batgirl though. I think she's a lot of fun to play. She's never been bad. She's also never been exceptional. She's always like an A tier hero. So hard to put Martian Manhunter really far up the crafting list. And now that I'm looking at these things, I think I'd put Anton Arcane ahead of Doomsday. I think I'd put Wizard Shazam ahead of Doomsday. That looks better in terms of crafting priority. I like this card. It's a fun card. It can get huge, and it has Aura and Hunter. So it can win you some games with Batgirl. Mass Arrests, had it in the D tier. There it remains. I've only ever seen it played once, I think. I don't think this is very good or a very high priority craft. Metron. Metron is quite strong. I had Metron in the A tier. That's a tough one. He belongs higher than late A tier. He's ahead of Martian Manhunter, ahead of Kyle Rayner. So he draws 2 cards if he lives, and he usually does because he has 10 health. And he's been buffed recently from 2 to 4 health, and that moves him up our priority list. Works well with Cyborg, though I have yet to see a really strong Cyborg deck. I'd put him behind Doomsday, but ahead of Rayner. The gold slots are hotly contested, and he sometimes ends up as like the card that you would include if you had 2 more card slots. But he is very good, and he can win games all on his own. Mr. Mind. I may have played this once. I don't think it's very high priority at all. I think I'd leave it where it is. Head of Malcolm Merlin. Probably behind. Both of them should be behind Imbued with Lightning. Don't think this is very good. Potentially, maybe in a Cyborg deck if you were running a Tyranny and Tactics Cyborg deck. That's about it. Naomi. I do have 1 copy of Naomi. Never really seen her played successfully. I had her in the B tier. I think that's incorrect. I think she belongs in the C or D tier. So I would move her down. That card is not important to go after. Not a very good card. Parasite I had in the B tier. I think that was incorrect. I think he's actually very good, and I would put him pretty high priority, S tier, ahead of Anton Arcane. He's got removal. He synergizes with firepower if you're running the Joker. I think he's really good. I think he's really, really good. He's never, ever, well, not never, ever, but pretty rare that he's bad, and he can be pretty devastating to smaller boards where they've got a couple of 2 health minions or recruits that you want to take out. Peacemaker, well, got better with the addition of Thomas Wayne, because Thomas Wayne has Hunter and Hidden, so if you had Peacemaker, you could guarantee that you could get a double attack Thomas Wayne attack off. If it worked with heroes as well, it would be devastating with Batmobile. As such, I've never really seen Peacemaker played. I've never seen him actually work, where he was played and then he doubled a recruit's attack. We're going to leave him in the C tier, probably even behind Merlin and Mr. Mind, but ahead of Naomi. Yeah, I think that's accurate. This order is decent, but we'll take a final look at it later. Power Girl, I had Power Girl in the A tier. I think that was wildly incorrect. She belongs in the C tier as a fairly low priority craft. Probably ahead of Peacemaker, but behind Merlin or Mr. Mind. She just doesn't have her ability go off much, so she ends up just being a 7-5 with shield, which isn't that hard to deal with. Ra's al Ghul has Hidden, and after another friendly recruit is KO'd while he's hidden, return that recruit to your hand. So basically you play him and any recruits that die on your turn then come back to your hand. Difficult to make it work. I had Ra's al Ghul in the B tier. I think that was inaccurate. He probably belongs as a pretty low priority craft, like maybe D tier. Could be he's just underutilized and people haven't figured out really the best use for him, but the gold slots are so hotly contested in a full tyranny deck. We just don't have room for a gimmicky, hard to set up play like Ra's al Ghul. So he's going pretty low down the list. Red Tornado I had in the B tier. I think that was inaccurate. We can drop him down to the C tier. Very middling card and not very important to craft relative to some of the rare cards. Reverse Flash I had in the D tier. That's very unfair to Reverse Flash. I think he actually belongs in the B tier, the high B tier. I would consider him even better than Zatara. His ability, attacking only leaders, not as hard to get off as you might think, because Anarchy decks that run him are usually pretty removal focused, and so you can most of the time get his 10 damage in on heroes, and it can be quite devastating. So I like this card a lot more than I thought I would. I wouldn't make him a high priority craft, but I think he's good, and he's arguably he could even be crafted before Doomsday. He may belong in the A tier, or he may want to move Doomsday down to the B tier. Something like that. Because I do think Reverse Flash is probably better than Doomsday, and I run him more often. Robin, had him in the S tier. He's still there. That's the card I would craft first. Highest priority purple rarity card for crafting. I think that is the best purple rarity card in the game. Like that card a lot. Always hard to deal with, always a terror. Probably needs a nerf, but as of right now, with it at a 5-5, he's really, really good. Should probably be a 4-4. Sinestro I had in the B tier. I don't think he's very good. I think the gold slots in Tyranny are too hotly contested, but I would put him ahead of some of the other C tier cards. Theoretically, if you didn't have some of the other gold cards from Tyranny like Darkseid or Necron or cards like that, you could run Sinestro and he'd be very, very good. In some situations, there's some where he wouldn't be. Six Blessings I had in the D tier. I think that is accurate. Seen this card played like once. Don't see a need for it. Don't recommend crafting it. Speedy comes in the Green Arrow mini set. I don't think she's an S tier card. I think she's actually A tier or even B tier card. I rarely run her anymore, and the reason is because more silver cards were added to tactics that are better than she is with the addition of the Blue Beetle mini set, so she becomes a pretty low priority craft, I would say. Maybe after Reverse Flash or something like that. I think Batwing probably belongs before these cards, so I'd put Batwing high B tier now that I'm looking at it. Super Size had that in D tier. That is accurate. That card is no good. There are just tons and tons of rare cards that are better than that. The Flash I had in the A tier. I think that is inaccurate. The Flash would be my highest priority craft for the Energy faction. I'd put it just behind Lucius Fox. I think the Flash is really, really good. There's a really sick Flash combo when you use Friends in High Places, which says seek a gold card and give it +3/+3. If you can get that +3/+3 on the Flash, play the Flash, play another energy card, you can get removals of 6, removal 6, and then have a 6/6 on the board, or deal 12 damage to a hero and have a 6/6 on the board, which is just insane. I think this card is really, really good, and I'm sad that I don't have it yet, but that would be my highest priority energy purple rarity card. The Mad Hatter, I have still never seen the Mad Hatter actually draw an Arkham Inmate. I don't think this card is good or necessary to craft for a good Arkham Inmate deck. I've never seen it be good. I've seen plenty of people play it. I've never seen it actually draw an Arkham Inmate. I don't know why. But I would put it pretty low down the list. Maybe more useful than Red Tornado, but not as useful as Mr. Mind. That's where I think he belongs. The Penguin, not bad. Had him in the A tier in my original list. I would not consider him essential to play an Arkham Inmate deck, and as such I'd probably move him down to B tier behind some of these other cards, which I think are better and higher priority to get. The Wizard Shazam I had in the A tier. I think he's actually pretty good, and I'd put him ahead of John Stewart anyway. I'd put him ahead of John Stewart. Felicity is part of the mini set, it doesn't matter. I'd put him behind the Flash. Debatable though. He could go behind John Stewart, but I think he's pretty good. He can really kind of take over a game if he gets multiple draws off. This is where I'd put him. He's very strong. Truth and Justice used to give all cards, your heroes as well, +2/+2. That was very strong. Now it only gives recruits 2/2 and shield. I still see it played occasionally, but mine is not in a very good place. I think you could move this down to the C tier. Maybe put it ahead of Hephaestus. Somewhere in this neighborhood seems good. Not very important anymore, though it did have a day when it was played all the time. Unending Ruin, I think, is terrible. Belongs in the D tier, which is where I had it before, maybe at the very end of the D tier. I've only ever seen somebody play it once, and all it really did was draw a card. And Wonder Woman, which I had in the S tier, and I think that's accurate. Wonder Woman is very, very strong. Should be one of the highest priority crafts, but not quite as high as Lucius or the Flash, just because Might isn't in a very good place right now. So this is a tier list. Let's see how it shapes out. S tier cards, these are going to be cards before you'll craft before you think about crafting any rares. Am I comfortable with this being the list? I think so. Felicity you get from a mini set. Don't need to craft her, but all the others, yeah, I'd craft these before I'd craft any rares. I think all of these are really good. The A tier cards, I'd probably... These are debatable, whether you craft these before crafting rares. Batwing, I think, could move up to the A tier, because the gadget deck is in a really good place right now with the addition of Thomas Wayne to the game. So I'd probably craft Batwing high A tier. But there may be rares you'd want before Batwing. The rest of the A tier seems fine. B tier with reverse flash at the top, that seems fine. C tier, you could probably move Lobo down to C tier. Maybe Harley as well. We'll leave him. So C tier, Truth and Justice could move down. These are cards you're only really going to craft after you have all the rares and you don't have anything else to do with your resources. I'd craft pretty much any ultimate before any of these cards. And most of the B tier cards, like maybe from this half, from the Penguin down. I'd go for ultimate, pretty much any ultimates before any of these other cards. From Giovanni Zatara up, those are more debatable. And some of these S tiers are going to come before some of the weaker ultimates. So that's where we're landing with our crafting order. I think that looks pretty good based on the current patch. You could probably make an argument for one or two cards to move up or down. Some of the A tier cards players will probably would argue for or against, maybe Doomsday, maybe Reverse Flash. But by and large, I think this looks pretty good. Don't know when the crafting system will come, but at least we'll be prepared. And thank you for watching.